50 people, which was awesome. And it's great to see this many come tonight. We should probably do a head count and see how many come, or has come. Tonight we have speakers here from our local representatives. Krista Knudsen from 5A, she's our area rep. And then we have Paul Bucky as a senator for our district area rep, who's in charge of with Mike Wiener from 5B. He's from Todd County area too. So all three of them represent us, and Bucky is the senator for these two districts. So it's awesome to see these guys come together and come up here and talk about the cesspool they've been trying to wade through and really try and make a difference, even though they're so badly outnumbered in all these committees and stuff, and I'm sure they'll talk more about that. I guess we'll start off with some prayer, and then we'll say the pledge, and then we'll just kind of jump both feet in. I'm going to ask our pastor here at our church to pray, and I want to thank the church for allowing us to do this here too.
The Bible says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. And we are living in a time where we need righteousness, and we need God for that. These people need the hand of God in their lives to be able to lead and to direct. So let's not stop praying for them and praying for each other. So let's bow our hearts. Thank you so much, God, for the privilege that we have here in this great country to worship you and to come together just to meet like this. Lord, the freedoms that we so often take for granted are freedoms that you bless us with. We pray, O Lord, forgive us as a nation for turning away from you. Help us, O God, to see the need to turn back, to come back. Lord, I ask that you would guide even tonight's time together, that we as people, Americans, would take control of our country again, that we would pray, God, that we would ask you for help, for wisdom, for guidance. Bless this meeting tonight, we ask. Meet with us. God, cover us with your love and your grace, we pray. In Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Now for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And again, thanks everybody for coming. This event sponsored by We the People of Northern Minnesota, which is me and my wife and 83 other people. There's 85 of us. There might be 86 of us now, which is a local group that's trying to help Christian constitutional conservatives like our reps that have been duly elected and without me already being in the system, which is great because we need these people to help us wade through or actually swim through what they're trying to pull. So for bathrooms, you just go back out through the door that you came in, go around the corner where I had things up for display, and the bathrooms are over there. There's a men's and a woman's. There's some snacks in the back, there's coffee, there's literature on that front table when you first came in, and then there's a donation box that helps us keep putting on these programs. I guess from here on out, if anybody's got questions, but we'll probably start out here with whoever wants to grab the mic first, maybe Krista, because she's our local house rep, and we'll just, we'll go ladies first, and we'll go from there. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to come up and announce your name and ask these guys anything. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you all for being here. It is so nice to see so many people. And it's so nice to be back. It's just so nice to be amongst friends and like-minded people, so thank you for being here. It was my first time in St. Paul, and it was crazy. Some of the most surprising things to me, I think, for me down there were, I thought that there would be more of a process, I guess. With the trifecta that they had, I thought that they would let, at least due process go. And it became evident really early in the session that wasn't gonna happen. In committees, they often didn't give us time to talk. They cut off testifiers that weren't saying what they wanted to say or wanted them to say, and then they just didn't give members an opportunity to rebut and talk about issues and concerns, and that was shocking right away. And then as session went on, I think probably more so in the House than in the Senate, I've heard, but we were shut down a lot in conversation. We got ruled out of order a lot if we started saying things they didn't want to hear, and that just put the end to that conversation. And that's all we had as the minority party. All we had was our voice. All we had was the ability to talk, and I thought there would be more, that they would allow that to happen more. Yeah, I don't know. There's 1,000 things that happened. I'm not sure what everybody wants to hear about, but I really hope that we have some great questions and some great conversation tonight. So, oh, and I was asked earlier to talk a little bit about how is my business doing since I was gone, and how's my family. And my business is doing well. When I won the election in November, we sat down with our managers and gave them more responsibility and, of course, more money. So they really took over a lot of what I used to do because I couldn't be there as much as I used to. So, and then my family is doing amazing because I have the best husband in the world, and he is a fantastic father. So they adjusted way better than I ever expected them to. My 9-year-old, I think, daughter struggled the most, and I just brought her down to St. Paul with me and let her spend some time down there. She came to committees with me and came and sat with me on the House floor and got to see what Mom was doing, and that really helped her. She found out that I wasn't having fun without her, so she was okay with that. So, but they all adjusted way better than I expected, so thank you.
Paula, do you go ahead?
Okay, thank you. And I'll go over a couple of things I want to talk about, but then in a town hall format, it's up to you guys to let us know what you're interested in. We'll tackle whatever subject you want to hear about. We've got a number of things we can bring up, but I want to just go over a little bit of what took place with the finances this year. Of course, we started the session with a $19 billion surplus, which in the end is all gone, plus another almost $10 billion that they spent. The common theme from the Democrats was, well, we could do so much more if we only had more revenue. Well, how much more do they want to flush down the drain? Because this is going to create a fiscal cliff that's going to be horrible. I think we'll see some of it already in 2 years, but particularly in 4. They spent a lot of the surplus on one-time money, which means they spent it. Usually you could do something if you were going to put it in the infrastructure or whatever, so you spent it, you built it, and now it's good. But they created a lot of programs too. The money was given to programs. Human services, as an example, I think went up about $3.1 and $3.2 billion. You don't start funding things in human services and shut the water off, even though their spreadsheet shows that happening. So they've created ongoing obligations that are going to be with us for a long time to come. But if we just back up a little bit, it's not that far for most of us to remember back to when Tim Pawlenty was governor. The last budget put together by the Pawlenty administration was $29.9 billion. And everything we do is in a biennium, so that's a 2-year budget. So 29.9, we finished the biennium that we're just finishing up now in June. So June 30th is the end of this biennium. This one is started at about 51.5 billion. It's grown to about 52 billion by the time we actually hit June 30th. The next biennium is $72 billion. They went up $20 billion in one biennium, increased government by 40%. I mean, these numbers are just staggering. And the surplus that we all have heard about, and of course they spent now, that didn't come through normal channels. We got almost $80 billion from the federal government for COVID, through all the various COVID payments. That money came in, got run through the system, came back as tax revenues, and all the other things that they collected this additional money for. That isn't ongoing money that's going to keep coming in, because that was a one-time deal. That's over with. So looking forward, there's a lot of concern, and we'll go over a number of other things here as the night goes on, but I'll stop there and we'll let Mike jump in here, and then we'll take your questions and see where you guys want to go with this. Thank you.
I'm gonna stand because I've been sitting for the last hour and a half. So. What Paul said is exactly right there with the numbers. So when I was campaigning, I said that the size of government was growing about 8 to 10% every year. And people's wages were only going up about 1.5 to 2% every year. This last session, exactly right, $52 billion budget went to a $72 billion budget coming up. Government grew by 40%, almost 40% in the state of Minnesota. We can't financially keep doing that. Not on the backs of the taxpayers. That was one-time money that got spent. Government grew, thousands of FTEs, full-time employees for the state. You see it on Facebook, different things right now. Minnesota's hired. First of all, with a labor shortage, we don't have enough bodies to fill those positions. And yet government grew almost 40%. You talk about frustrating. So what Chris said was exactly right. In committees we were shut down, was putting it nicely. I was on economic development and taxes, and I said at the beginning that they were going to probably get sick of me saying the same thing in economic development, and I wanted reporting. I wanted to know how the money is going to be spent with every project that they put forth. Okay, if you're going to get $40 million grant for a project, we want reporting, because the taxpayers want to know how their money is, their tax dollars is getting spent. And it got shot down every time. Every time. But that's already part of the process, or that'll get added onto it later. It doesn't matter. We owe it to the people out here in Minnesota to let them know how their tax dollars are getting spent. And it got shut down. So we saw Feeding Our Futures fraud, $250 million 2 years ago. Expect more of it. Because with that $20 billion that just got spent, there's going to be more fraud.
Of course.
I can't tell you how frustrating it was to not have a voice. And so many of those things, to get shut down, come to the floor speeches, and it was very early on, I realized that they're not even listening.
Right.
We're sitting there on the floor, the first couple speeches, you look across the aisle and what do you see? Half the people are gone. The other people on the Democrat side got their faces into the computer or onto their phones. They're not listening to a word we have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
They came into this session with a $17 billion surplus, all three levers of control of government. They knew exactly what they were going to do, and they did it.
Yeah.
And no matter what we had to say, didn't matter. No matter what we said, it didn't matter. Talk about a frustrating experience. But, We've been through this before in society. We've had downs, we've had ups. Where are we gonna go from here? That's the thing, we can, it's like having a losing season. What do you do the next season? You better learn from the mistakes and make sure you don't repeat them. And we got probably a little bit, everyone was talking about the red wave. They were expecting Republicans to take control of the House and the Senate in the state of Minnesota. We ended up having, in the House, 12 primaries on the Republican side. You had a 1 in 5 chance of getting primary. We spent between $700,000 and $1.3 million with outside money fighting amongst ourselves. We lost control of the state of Minnesota by 4 House races, which equated to less than 1,500 votes. If we want to take our state back from the socialist agenda that's going on right now, we better start working together.
That's right. Amen to that.
We cannot be fighting amongst ourselves moving forward. Because the only way they're going to win is if we keep fighting amongst ourselves. There's differences. We don't all agree on everything. I understand that. But look at bill after bill after bill that came through the House and the Senate. What did it do? More spending or government control? Definition of socialism is when government controls the means of production. In almost every bill, that's exactly what happened here. The Uber bill is a prime example. That's private industry, private business. And they came and wanted the government to fix their problem. That is not a government problem. That is a private industry problem. That's the only thing that I can say Walz did that I agreed with. He vetoed that bill. But we should have never even had that on the floor. Should have never even been discussed. The unfunded mandates that are coming through the school, through bills that are going to hit education, our local government, and is going to increase the taxes and control all by central power in the metro. And our voice gets smaller. So if we're going to take back our state, we need to start working together and realize what the problem is, come up with a plan, and then execute the plan. So it's going to take some work, but we got into this position not overnight. This was a long time coming. We were asleep at the wheel, so to speak, and here we are. And now we've got to deal with the consequences. So we've got a battle before us, 2024. We have to take the House back in the state of Minnesota by flipping a few seats. And that'll be the backstop. That'll be the guardrail, so to speak, that will put hopefully some sanity back into our government. It was really never thought that they would have, that one party would have all 3 levers of control. Our founding fathers did not anticipate that and didn't want it. And we've got a mess to deal with. And it's going to take some time to fix it. So, I don't want to sound all gloom and doom because I think this is doable. Like I said, 4 races, less than 1,500 votes. We can do this. But when we look at all of those bills and you combine them, if that isn't the slide into socialism, I don't know what is. That's a dangerous situation. That's not the way we're set up. We're a constitutional republic, and we need to take that back for our state. So I apologize. I did not thank you, Scott, when I first started speaking. I was a lot of things going through my mind, but groups like this and what's going on here, spreading the word, is important. It's imperative. Because we need to take the state back. And we need to work together to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody got questions that want to come up and ask these guys something? Go ahead and grab a mic if you want to state your name.
Hello, my name is Alan J. Chris, and I set up all night thinking about 50 questions for to ask you guys, but he says we don't have enough time to go. So anyway, my question is, and you kind of already alluded to some of it already. I can remember being 17 years old and sitting in a restaurant, and we got a 4% sales tax that was supposed to be temporary. I remember it was supposed to be temporary. And then lottery money came along and it said, oh, this is gonna help us with taxes. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but the lottery is gonna help us lower our taxes. Okay. If I've learned anything, all these programs that are here, they're not going away. They're not. I don't know how Minnesota can sustain that kind of growth or that kind of spending. I just don't know how we're going to do that. I mean, I went to McDonald's, got a small fry and two fish for $14. And I'm going, are you kidding me? $14? And I mean, I don't think we can survive another year and a half with Mr. Biden and what's going on today. I don't know. I really don't know what the remedy is, you know. I could probably say it, but I don't want to go to jail.
And we're in church.
You know, and like I was telling Christy here that, you know, I've been voting for over 50 years. I send money to the Republican Party. I write my letters, I make my phone calls and all that stuff, and here we are. We're knee deep in stuff, you know, and I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to fix that. And, you know, and again, you're only 3 votes or whatever, you know. And it just, and I say, I don't know how to change that. I just don't know. And I guess the only other question I got is, like Kamala Harris, she was number 23. She was the lowest person on the total. How the hell did she become vice president? Nobody wanted her. Anyway, that's all I got.
Thank you, Al.
My name is Charles Deutschman. Can you help out in terms of identifying perhaps some legislation that had consequences to greater Minnesota as opposed to the metropolitan area that really are consequential to us here in greater northern Minnesota? Some particular pieces of legislation perhaps.
Pieces that hit us harder than them?
Yes, please.
All of it.
You could go up and down the list a lot. I mean, if we jumped into education alone, education just got hammered. They got increases in the per pupil, but any time that there's any increases, anything to do with education, our rural schools get a lot less than the metro. As an example, let's say roughly 10 grand per pupil here to 15 grand in the metro. I mean, it's not real close. And every time you hear them funded with a percentage, we've been trying in the 6 years I've been in St. Paul to change that formula. And we had a really good plan last year, but of course, we're only one body. We're fighting the Democrats in the House and the governor's office. And in the end, it went back to a per pupil. That increases the spread. But now come into the mandates that happen to our schools. Your hourly employees now are up for unemployment insurance. So all of the hourly employees, that whether it's bus drivers, paras, anybody that works hourly, when you work for the school, you know it's a 9-month job. But now you can draw unemployment for the summer. And it isn't like the unemployment that a business has, where you've got a rate based on your past history and it's a lot less. The schools are fronting all this. It's gonna cost us, was it was $135 million, I think they front loaded it for the first year. That's what's gonna fall on our school districts after the first year. That's a huge thing. Our taxes, our property taxes are going up from the school district alone, plus the rest of government got hit too. Yeah, they got additional local government aid and county program aid, but the mandate's an additional cost. But the school, they got hit with so much stuff, and that's just one example. I could go into what they were targeting for our health providers, our hospitals. They were coming after some stuff that would have just, it would hurt the rural the most, because they don't care about us. They were willing, we already, when I looked at across the United States, there's about 600, it's just short of 650 hospitals that they say are on the brink, you know, of closing because their finances are that tough. It was either 13 or 14 of those that actually are in Minnesota, and you know that those are all in rural Minnesota. We're gonna lose providers, and they kept piling on more mandates and more mandates, but that's just a couple of quick examples of things that are gonna get us big in our rural small areas.
We'll talk about education.
I'm not gonna talk about
I'll
education.
let
That one's yours.
Yep.
The Clean Energy Act, the prime example. You know, clean energy by 2040. If you're in the metro and you drive an average of, 3 to 5 miles back and forth to your workplace, you could probably do that with an electric car. I'm not gonna be able to do that with my 3/4 ton diesel pulling a trailer. It doesn't work. The electrical vehicles, the technology is not there. So the plan to go renewable, or not renewable, clean energy by 2040 is not very well thought out, and it will kill businesses and the lifestyle in rural Minnesota. It absolutely will. We don't have the infrastructure here. If you look at it, and there was an article, I think, in Epic Times, well, this was probably 6 months ago already. They said if you wanted to go to electric vehicles across the United States, it's gonna take about $7 trillion worth of infrastructure spending. Then you have to mine the copper, the nickel, the zinc, all the precious metals that gotta go into it. We can't mine enough, plus the moratorium on the northern Minnesota mining. We can't mine enough precious minerals in order to do this. So in the state of Minnesota, how are you gonna get around if it's all clean energy, or renewables that they call it? It's not gonna work. So that one to me is a long-term, it is a slow drain of the rural economy and lifestyle. And it's gonna hurt. The gentleman over here talked about taxes. All of the spending that's going on, your property taxes have gone up probably 15 to 25% every year for the last half dozen years, more than likely. They're gonna go up. So we also know that out in rural Minnesota, we have about 27% of our population, 30% is elderly. What happens when those elderly can't afford to stay in the old farmhouse or out in the country? Where are they gonna go? We're already seeing an exodus of Minnesota. About 20,000 people left the state last year. And there's interesting numbers when you compare Minnesota to Wisconsin, which is pretty close demographically. They had only about, I think it's $60 million worth of GDP left the state last year. Went to warmer climates or whatever.
That was 21. Yeah.
In Minnesota, $1.5 billion left the state. Last year?
In 21.
Yeah. So you're seeing the people with means and businesses leaving the state. When you have those top tier people, businesses leaving, where does the tax burden fall? Middle class. LG has been mentioned. LG was started in 72, 73. Do you know what the reason was? To help lower your property taxes. Has it served its purpose? I don't think so. Department of Energy started in the 1970s to do one purpose, to get us off of foreign oil. How are we doing there? Fail. Exactly. Now they're a department, I think it's about 50,000 people in a budget that I don't remember the numbers, but it's astronomical, and we're still not energy dependent. So every one of those government programs that started this last session with a $20 billion surplus, they're not going away. How do you fix that? You need some sanity, you need some, You need some adults in the room saying this isn't going to work. But what we see, and I realized this very early on, they didn't elect politicians or statesmen on the other side. They elected activists. They are there for a purpose, a reason. Whether it's the transgender movement, whether it was abortion, whether it was clean energy, there's a handful of things. But those were the activists in the metro that pushed this. So the transgender bill, they had the queer caucus that was pushing that agenda and is still pushing more. The clean energy caucus on the other side is pushing, and that's a bigger part of the Democrat playbook. But they're not electing statesmen who want to reach across the aisle. They've elected activists. And it's hard to reason with somebody that is only driven by passion and emotions. So it's a struggle. But I see that the clean energy is going to be a slow bleed. We're going to lose businesses, we're going to lose people. The states around us are already dropping their tax rates as a means to draw people in that are leaving Minnesota. North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa have already done it. I think Wisconsin's looking at the same thing. That's bad. We've done several Second Amendment town halls. Too many to count. And thank you for all the work you did. I appreciate it. The two bills that came through, red flag and universal background check, that's an erosion of our Second Amendment rights. That one, if you look at the red flag laws that have been enacted across the United States, they always use the same selling point. It's to lower suicide rates. No place where they've enacted Second Amendment or red flag laws has it lowered the overall suicides. It's lowered how they committed suicide. So they're not using a gun anymore, they just use different means. It has never lowered the rate of suicides. And the universal background checks, we have a system in place that works pretty good, and I don't think it would have stopped, and I don't remember the numbers exactly, but I don't think it would have stopped a single mass shooting, more background checks. So there again is an erosion of our Second Amendment rights. Overall, bad. The education part Krista can talk about, that one, more money, more government control, taking it away from the locals. But I'll let her go on that. I've rambled on.
I'm gonna take a quick jump in here on the energy that Mike talked about. Just to give you a little bit of where we stand now. I mean, they want by 2040 be 100% carbon free. I'm kind of a goof when it comes to electric. I follow the MISO grid a lot. This afternoon, you know, we're up in the high 80s here in the whole central part of the United States because there's 15 states and a Canadian province on this. But it's a nice day out there, a little warm. But the renewables, what they want us to be 100% on these renewables going forward. Today, we're a little over 13%. And they want to be, 60 or 80% by 2030 and 100% by 2040. It can't happen. So that's where we're going to get killed out here because everywhere we go, we drive. We're not within a few miles of where we're at. But this electrical thing is going to be real scary because you're going to go to flip your switch and the lights aren't going to come on because they're going to start to move it around on these warm days and who gets it, who doesn't, what's more important. But if you watch these things, some days that renewable will climb up a little higher, but today being just such a beautiful day and it's so minimal compared to what they would like us to have just shortly. So that's a huge failure. It's going to hurt us a lot. But I'll pass it on to Krista.
So I was on the education committees, education finance and education policy, and I was so happy about that because kids are my passion. I have 4 children of my own, and they're in the public schools, and our students, our test scores are declining every year, and that's a huge concern to me, and I was so thankful to get there. We did not address our failing test scores at all. And I would talk to my husband at night, and he would ask, what are you doing or whatever. It was all equity, inclusion, and diversity. That's all the education committees were this year. We started off with free school lunches for everybody, which sounds great, right? Nobody wants to have hungry children. I don't want to have hungry children. Nobody wants children to be hungry. But like everything else, they come up with this really fluffy, pretty name, and it's gonna be devastating to our schools. So that's how we started off the year, free lunch for everybody. Some schools in Minnesota don't offer breakfast right now, well now they have to. So now these schools have to scramble to hire people to figure out how they're gonna do breakfast for everybody. I am personally offended by this. We were fine paying for our own children's lunch. I don't need you guys to pay for my kids' lunch. I don't wanna be forced onto this subsidized system. It's not. We don't need it. You know who does need it? Our seniors need it. They could have gotten 100% Social Security tax relief. No, instead now they get to help pay for my kids' school lunches. It's horrible.
Yay!
Thanks, Shar, for paying for my kids' lunch. And breakfast. And it's not even enough food. And I think that that's one of the biggest things too. I have a 5th grade son, and the portions, I don't know if any of you have gone to schools or seen, but in our schools, the portion sizes are so small that it doesn't fill up the kids. So they get extras every day. So we're still gonna have to pay for their extras, you know.
A lot
it's
of it
just,
ends up in the trash though too. I've worked at the school.
yes,
A lot
they
of
do.
it just
Because
goes-
it's not, they don't like it.
It's not.
I hear that. It isn't real food. It's all carbs. It's very little protein. I know. But we're doubling down on that. Some of the other things in the education that happened that I think is going to be not great for greater Minnesota. We're not as diverse up here as they are in the metro. Their ethnic studies mandate now is critical race theory. It is literally teaching children that if you are a white person, you are an oppressor, and if you are of color, you are the oppressed. You are a victim, just based solely on the color of your skin. The original definition in the bill of anti-racism was the redistribution of wealth and resources based on the color of your skin. And that curriculum is starting in kindergarten. There will be a mandated credit in that class to graduate. It's horrible. There is a school down closer to the metro that actually put a picture of a Ku Klux Klan hood on a screen and made all of the white children in that class sit in silence for 15 minutes to absorb the oppression that their ancestors had caused people.
I'd have pulled them out of the school district.
It's really bad, and it's gonna get worse. That's a big concern to me. And I think that there needs to be, here in Park Rapids and actually throughout greater Minnesota, we have great school districts. We have good school board members, we have good superintendents, we have great teachers. This is not their fault. These mandates are coming from the state. I don't want people to storm into their school boards and be like, this is, you can't do this. Their hands are tied. And the state's continuing to do that. They're taking away the managerial rights of the school boards. They want it to be a state-run school board. And we have to fight that at every turn. We can't let that happen. Local control is always best. Some of the other things, as Senator Aki had mentioned, is this unemployment insurance for hourly workers or whatever. Great. I love our hourly workers. They deserve a fair wage. They deserve, all the whatever benefits they have. But now, just since this bill was signed into law, I think it was Sunday that Governor Wall signed it, or Saturday maybe. Just since it went into effect, there are people that normally these hourly workers would work in, like the day programming in their schools, and they're literally texting their bosses saying, I'm gonna actually not work and I'm just gonna take the summer off. a childcare problem. What's gonna happen now? We're not gonna have these summer programs. And not only that, but there's no backfill. Like there are no extra people there. I own a restaurant. We had a now hiring sign up for 9 months. We couldn't hire a person. You know, there's no backfill. So now all of these people are we're incentivizing people to not work when we have a huge workforce shortage to begin with. We can't do that. Who's gonna suffer? That's our kids are gonna suffer the most. And we need them. We have 50% of our kids can read at grade level. 50% of our children cannot read. If you can't read, you cannot learn. 50% of our kids are not learning. It is a tragedy. It is a crisis. I could go on about this for a long time because it's a big deal to me, but we're not teaching our children how to read. We're not teaching them phonics. We're teaching them to memorize words and memorize books, and then all of a sudden they get into 5th or 6th grade where they have to actually sound out new words, sound out words in their science books and their history books, and they cannot do it because they were never taught. But not only were they never taught, their teachers were never taught how to teach phonics in our college prep programs. It is a huge problem, and we are doing nothing to address that. I don't know, I could go on and on and on. Those are just some of the things that I think are going to really affect Greater Minnesota the most. But
Hi.
okay,
Hi, Paul. Hey, John Schmitz, Park Rapids. Say, when we first started on the budget, you were talking about those numbers. We had this large surplus, and now they've diminished that plus added to it. How much have we put into infrastructure, anything that's putting the roof back on this thing? You know, repair, maintenance. You know, I haven't seen, I follow both of you, your emails, and I haven't seen the actual numbers. I maybe missed them. But of that budget, how much are we using to rebuild the state on common sense things, roads, bridges, structure, you know, things that employ people?
You've got a couple different things that would address the pieces you're talking about. You could take the bonding bills. There was two. One bonding bill was a borrowing bill using geo bonds. That one has infrastructure. It has HEPR, which is maintaining state buildings and properties. So that one is pretty much infrastructure, both state and local stuff. They had a second bonding bill, which was a cash bill. A cash bonding bill, they can pass with a simple majority. A regular borrowing bonding bill takes a super majority. So in the Senate, there's 34 Democrats, 33 Republicans. It takes 7 Republicans at a minimum to pass a borrowing bill, because you gotta have a super majority to borrow. But if they use cash, which they took some of that surplus, then they can do it by themselves. That had some additional infrastructure. It also funded nonprofits and special interests to the tune of $300+ million. Went from a bonding bill, which it should never happen. Bonding should be infrastructure. It should be buildings. It should be roads. It should be bridges. It's things that you do and they last for a long time. They put money into things that are going totally against what
That's what I'm
they're
asking
for.
is, you know, how much are we rebuilding the state with? And how much are we just frivolously spending on these other programs?
That was what, about 2.3 billion or something, I think, in the two bonding bills. The transportation ended up, that bill was, I think, 3.777 billion over what it was, where it started at. You know, you only ever hear about the increases, and that ongoing just continues to grow too. That will fund a fair amount of road work. It also has a number of things in there that are tax related, that are just gonna be heavy on the metro of that increase. But the state infrastructure did get a big boost.
Are
How
we
much more should
proportionately
we have?
quite a bit less than the outstate?
What's
I
that?
mean, more than proportionately, are we lower on the outstate as opposed to the metro?
Yes. We were able to maintain, particularly in Bonneville, some outstate and some that came into our various districts, but it was heavy on the Democrat districts and heavy on the Metro because they're in charge. But, you know, and we all need roads and bridges throughout, but I've had that conversation with people too, and if we want people to come up here, that Metro is such a jungle that getting those roads finished that get you out of the Metro in a civilized manner probably gets the people up here to visit our work resorts and our businesses and stuff even more than increase locally here. So we need it across the whole state, but we need to be able to get the people to flow out of that Metro place too. But we always come up short because
But we that live here also need to drive our trucks and take care of our stuff and stay on the roads.
Exactly.
We need to function in our own, unrelated to the metro. We need to be able to function in our own businesses and our own, you know, it's,
I mean, we drive, and we've all seen that, particularly this last winter. It was horrible at roads everywhere.
Yeah.
There's a lot of maintenance to do. Hopefully we can get that. And, you know, we talk about the parties. This really boils down to metro versus rural. And they unfortunately have too many, and we gotta keep picking away at that to get, we get a few more people on our side so that we can direct those dollars this way, because the governor and his commissioners dictate a lot of where those projects go.
thank you.
You bet.
I did want to add too, I think, that townships did get an increase in funding for roads and bridges. But I don't know if it's enough, so it's not, I don't think it's what they asked for, I think it's less than, but.
I'm Eric Barth is my name, and I had a comment and a couple of questions. The comment Mike took care of, this state is bleeding. It's bleeding, and I was shocked the other day when I found out it was over $1.5 billion of lost income tax because people are leaving. Interestingly, they left Wisconsin too. They left from a lot of blue states to go to red states. But this one is losing a lot more. Things are really bad. You have to realize it. I want to know, one question I have is, what's the voting situation? Do we have voter ID? That is a problem. We say that and everybody shakes their head. No, there are a lot of states have voter ID, including Florida, including Tennessee. They have voting. You have to go in and show an ID to get in. When I vote in Florida, I'm a Florida resident now. I have to pay. It's hard to get it. You got to show ID. There's people that are voting square down there, and I'm very confident in it. This is a problem with it. People that are getting driver's licenses are now an ID. You could be an illegal immigrant and voting. This is why I have a problem. You don't stop it. You gotta get some kind of ID. I just don't think you're not gonna get anywhere until. The second thing, other question was, do we have someone in charge of the Republican committee, on getting people who are Republican elected in certain areas? You know, if you look at the national situation, it doesn't matter what North Dakota, who runs there, because it'll go Republican, whoever's the Republican. I don't care the nominee. You don't have to worry about New York, it's gonna go Democrat. You don't have to worry about a lot of states, you don't have to care. And it's a similar way here. It doesn't matter what you do in Ramsey County, Hennepin County. That's not the area. We've got to find the areas that are those special votes you're talking about, Mike. You got to do something about intensively working those areas. Don't worry about work in Hennepin County. This is our problem. The same way federally. Don't bother going to North Dakota. They'll go Republican. Don't bother going to South Dakota, Iowa. They're going to go. Kansas. But you better go look out for Pennsylvania. You better look out for Georgia. You better look out for Wisconsin, because those are swing states. And Arizona and Nevada. Those are the 5 states. Other than that, it doesn't matter.
make sense to me. I say that people sometimes don't make any sense to me, but numbers make sense to me. So I have a map on my wall in the Capitol, and it has every House seat, because in 2024, that's the only races that we really have, is the House. So every race that I have, who won, what the percentage was, and if it's in the margin. There are, and I wish I brought it up here with me, but I have that all in a Excel spreadsheet of the ones that are close. There were, like I said, 4 races that were within the 1,500 votes. And yes, there needs to be emphasis on flipping the seats. So one of them up in the Iron Range, Liz Lagarde is the representative up there. He's a Democrat, and he won by, if I remember off the top of my head, about 500 votes. Okay, so there's about 10 races that are actually in play. But we need to get 4 to flip the House. So what I've been saying and what I've been kind of promoting here is adopt a rep. Now in my area, we are very red, okay? My area voted 76% Republican. There's only one area that voted higher, and that was right next door, Morrison County. Isaac Schultz won that race. I said I'm gonna beat him next round because I think we're more conservative than Morrison County. But I know what it took us to win last election. It's gonna take me less this time because of name recognition. So what I'm going to do is fundraise. I know what it's gonna take to win my race, give or take, and I'm going to adopt a rep. Now the closest one to me is St. Cloud, Dan Oblong. He won by a slim margin as well, okay? Whoever runs against Dan, I work with them. I help them campaign. I help them fundraise so that we can flip that seat. So what the Democrats do, and they're very good, they're very strategic, they have basically a Bush League team. They're bringing people up all the time. They're training, they're working with them. We're not as well organized, okay? But we need to be. The Adopt a Rep kind of program, whoever's gonna run for that, first of all, we need to have good candidate recruitment. So talking to the BPOUs down there, saying who's running, who's available, who can beat it. Finding good candidates. Fundraising is huge. And that's why I say we can't fight amongst ourselves. The Democrats can outspend us 5-1. Probably closer to 6-1. But I think we can work harder. I think we can do a better job. I think our messaging makes more sense. But we've got to put shoes to the pavement and get it done. So that Adopt a Rep program, I help that area, that candidate, to get him elected. When he is elected, I also mentor them when they come into the House. So that when they get down there, because like myself, I gotta admit, the first couple weeks I was going, I don't know if I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing here. We don't have a good enough program educating and bringing up the next level. We've got to be better organized. So even this next session, none of the senators are up for election. As a party, and I'm putting Paul on the spot, but I hope that he is helping fundraise. I hope that he's adopting a rep as well to making sure that we can flip some of those seats. Iron Range, St. Cloud, Mankato, and there's Moorhead. Keeler's a little bit tougher.
We need to figure out.
Keeler's a little bit tougher race. I think that one would be really difficult, but that's my opinion. There was many around the metro that were literally within a couple hundred votes. There's 10 races that we lost by less than, or I'm sorry, 6 races that we lost by less than 1,000, and another 10 that we lost by less than 2,000 votes. So we say that this is a blue state, it's really not. It is very easily flippable. If we get organized, if we work together, this can be done. So the other thing what the Democrats did, which was very smart, we bring it up when we talk about elections, 2 things that they did this year. Voting for felons. Voting for felons. Approximately 40,000 voters. Which way do you think they're gonna vote? That's right. The other thing, driver's license for illegals. When that came up to the floor, approximately another 40 to 50,000 people is what they're estimating. We said, we offered amendments. Take that driver's license and turn it. That's what some states do. You can still use it for driving, but then if you go in to vote, you know that you can't vote. We also said, let's put not for voting purpose on there. Every one of our amendments were shot down. There's about 100,000 votes that we need to overcome. That's primarily in the metro. Okay? So we talked about stacking the deck. They did a pretty good job.
What documentation do the illegals need to get a driver's license?
No, I think we just go into the DMV and get
And
the
they don't
driver's
even need to have a, like, they can give any address.
Right.
You can give any address.
And no,
Actually, you could give the address of a bridge.
But there is something, and like I said, the numbers make sense to me, that I was looking at the maps, and going through the numbers. On the average house race in the state of Minnesota, between 17 and 20,000 people showed up to vote. Okay? Up here, about 18,000, I think, total in your area. About 18,000 in mine. There was 10 races in the cities. Less than 10,000 people showed up to vote. And it follows a pattern. It's interesting. Like I said, the numbers make sense to me. At the 694-494 split, it follows 694 till Highway 94, and goes straight down, right into Minneapolis. 9 of those races, less than 10,000 people showed up to vote. Why? I don't have an answer for that. I've been asking a lot of questions down there, because that means that the opportunity of flipping some of those seats, I think, is there. We didn't have candidates running in 9 races in different areas of the state. We need to. We need to do a better job. We need to get organized, like I said. And things like this help. Information, spreading that information is key. How do we get away from the system that we have now? We have to take back control of the House and then the Senate, hopefully the governorship. 46 out of 47 countries in Europe require ID. The mail-in ballots, just about every country in Europe has gotten rid of them because they learned 20 plus years ago that this system can be frauded. For some reason, we believe that we overcame a flaw in human nature that's willing to cheat to win. I don't think so. Fraud has been happening in elections since probably the second election that ever took place.
Senator Coleman.
Pardon?
Senator Coleman.
Well, if you look back at it, the Romans, there's plenty of examples of that, fraud in elections. There was movies about it, the gangs of New York. Chicago, prime example. The biography of Lyndon Baines Johnson, he said that he did everything short of sitting on the ballot box to make sure that he won. Fraud has been happening in elections since the beginning of time. So for people that say there's no fraud, they're not telling the truth.
Hey, Mike, have you considered protector rep for those Republicans that are won by slim margins also?
They obviously have support. There is 2 up in the Iron Range, Scraba and Natalie, won by Natalie Martins. He won by, I'm sorry, Natalie Zelenska. Roger Scraba and Natalie Zelenska. He won by 15 votes, she won by 33. So obviously there is going to be a lot of money, time, and effort spent up in those areas. There's another, Mark Weens won by 200. And I'm sorry, I should have refreshed my memory on the rest of them, but there's still 5 that we have to work on and protect. And yes, the party knows that. What my focus is those of us who have the opportunity and means to help out and win those races where we can win. St. Cloud, if we can take St. Cloud and the one up in the Iron Range, That would be huge. Because once those areas change, it's gonna be really tough to change them back.
I just want to quick add to that too. You're gonna hate this, Scott, but in the We the People Act that they passed this year, which isn't about we the people at all, they also made it so automatic voter registration when you apply for a driver's license.
That's bad.
Illegal immigrants get driver's licenses now. But we were reassured that it's a felony to vote if you're an illegal, so they will not be voting.
There is a flip side to that that I think will play to our favor. There is a lot of Latinos that come into the state. They are not happy with a lot of the laws that were passed. They are primarily Christian-based, and the abortion bill did not sit well with a lot of those groups. So I believe, and I hope, and I pray that some of those groups will stop supporting the Democrat leftist agenda and start going more conservative.
That's been my prayer too through all this open border stuff that's been happening, all these illegals coming in. I mean, there's gotta be some good in some of this, we hope. That they've all coming from communist areas, you know, some of them are gonna want more free stuff, but we're just hoping some of them are looking to escape and come to America for what it actually stood for before the left started tanking us as bad as they really have been since this last election. Well, that's what my prayer has been too. We have I believe Dawn's got a prayer, or a prayer, but she prays too, I'm sure.
I wanted to thank you all for coming and for addressing a lot of the issues that I've been hearing. And you guys are at the forefront of representing all of us, and we really appreciate that. That you're taking the heat for us. And that's not easy. Stay the course, guys. Some of my concerns are this renewable fuels, this green energy. I don't know about a lot of you, but I come from a farming background. I know that's gonna be devastating for any farmer. Anybody who drives a vehicle, machinery that runs on fossil fuels, that's gonna affect you. Once they get the bill on the books, they can do whatever they want to, change the words, whatever. You gotta be very careful what you support, and if you're not for that, you need to let them know and tell others so that they know. Because I don't know how long your extension cords are, but I don't think it's gonna reach my tractor in the middle of the field. And we do have infrastructure already in place with ethanol and with biofuels. We have that infrastructure. I don't know why that's not okay. It helps all of us when we are using renewable fuels. And just wondering, where did they get the electricity from? Have they thought that far? How are they going to generate that electricity? Because something has to be put in place. I know it's infrastructure, but is it going to be coal, propane? They're still going to need something to generate the electricity to make these new electric cars run, or to charge those renewable, rechargeable batteries. So you're going to need that. And some people are like, ooh, this is going to be great. I just plug it in my car. Where does that energy come from? So,
You give you the credit for thinking,
Yeah.
and they
They
don't
don't,
think.
they don't know that far out.
It's like the money, they think they go out, that grows on trees, just like the electricity, you know, comes from that little outlet on your wall. They have no connection to where it really starts with, you know, whether it's the coal plants. Today, as I talked about, you know, the renewables and such, the biggest share of the energy keeping our lights on today is coming from natural gas. And it should be coal. Coal is where we've got the biggest footprint in infrastructure, but it isn't. They've shut down coal plants And we're taking natural gas that we've got, I mean, natural gas is abundant, but we still have a lot of other places that need it, particularly in the winter, because it is heating fuel and such, but they don't connect the dots when they just make up, I mean, they just put numbers on a paper and pass it. To say we're gonna be 100% carbon free by 2040, not possible. And they won't take, we have to fight to call hydropower, which is from dams, renewable, because that's the ultimate renewable. Actually, the ultimate carbon free is nuclear, and they won't even let us, we've battled just to be able to research and come up with what would it cost for some new plants, because all the nuclear plants are getting really, really old, and there's new technology that's wonderful out there, but we can't even get the bill passed to research it, but yet they're gonna say, we're gonna be carbon free. It's not possible. The dots don't line up.
Well, I'm gonna put something out there. My husband said that if you listen to Lynn Killison on the Linder Farm Network, Lynn is saying, if we are going carbon neutral, everything's gonna be dead. The plants need the carbon to survive, and the plants give us the oxygen. It's a cycle. It's been here since the beginning of the world. And so it's not making sense. It doesn't make sense to John Q. Public, doesn't make sense to me, a lot of us.
It doesn't make sense to us either.
So thanks for going at it. I have a lot of hats that I've worn. And currently, I do work in the school. And we are battling, let me see if I can see it right, gender equity. SEL training, you know what that is?
Social emotional.
Oh, yeah. People are divided at the school where I work. Christian, but we want to be fair, but we're dealing with this. And we have male, female, non-binary. It's a problem. And it's, I understand it's on our driver's licenses, it's on the student profiles now. It's all in place. All it takes is for somebody to push the agenda, which is what's happening in the school that I know. And it's causing a lot of problems. Kids are confused. They are not able to make an informed choice until they're like 20, 21. Then they fully understand most of what they're getting into, but they have no clue that this is not reversible if you go from male to female or from female to male. It's not reversible. And students are being pushed into it. Educated, psychoanalyzed into it.
Groomed. They're being groomed into it.
Grooming, yes. And you all think it's just like out there. It's starting when they're little. When they're little. And it's just the most awful thing.
It is. That has probably been one of the biggest battles that I feel we fought this year. They did pass Lee Finkey's bill that made Minnesota a sanctuary state for kidnapping and mutilating our children without parent consent. They will take your child to allow this to happen. They also banned conversion therapy, which is a tool that should be in a parent's toolbox that helps a child address issues they think they have with gender identity. We have gone so far from teaching our children to love themselves as they are, and now we're teaching them that they can mutilate their bodies, permanently sterilize themselves at any age. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And there are groomers out there that are teaching our children that they should do this. Little girls can play ball. That doesn't mean they're a little boy. And a little boy can bake a cake. That doesn't mean he's a girl. There are different levels of masculinity and femininity And just because a little girl wants to play football with the boys does not mean she's a boy.
Agreed.
You know, my husband at night, when I was down there and I would call him, this one bill, I lost weeks of sleep over this.
Yep.
It still horrifies me. If you ever looked up what gender mutilating surgery looks like, it is horrific. I would call my husband and he would say, Krista, the majority of these bills that you're hearing will never affect our family or the people that we surround ourselves with. And I find a lot of comfort in that because we are Christians, we surround ourselves with Christians, and we teach our children to love themselves as they are. That's how God made you, and that's how you're supposed to be. We all struggle with different things in life, and we always will, but that doesn't mean we weren't made how we were supposed to be. This is gonna get a lot worse
It is.
before it gets better. Next year, we're gonna see a whole slew of bills that are gonna be awful and horrific. Right now, the only thing we can do is love our children, be a part of their lives, and talk to them. Talk to them about what they're gonna be seeing, what they're gonna be hearing, and talk to them about what our Christian faith says. That this is not okay, this is not what we do, and pray for those kids. Pray for those people that are doing that to those kids, because that's all we have right now. This is a battle of good versus evil, and we have to pray like we have never prayed before, because children will suffer. I'm sorry. I could go on about this for a long time, but it is such a, it shakes me to my core. And nothing gets me fired up like messing with our kids. And at first I thought it was just gonna be our unborn children this year, but it's all of our children. And it is horrifying to me. So the only thing we can do, I mean, we will fight as much as we can, but we have no power right now. But pray. We have to pray.
There's more power in this room right now. As parents, as grandparents, aunts, uncles, I say aunts, then you know you have. You need to start standing up, following their lead. Parents they have such a voice, and they have so much that they can do. We can't let any more kids. It's just terrible.
And we have to talk to our children. You
Yes.
have to talk to your kids, because they're gonna see this. And they're gonna see this in elementary school. And you have to talk to them, because they are so easily manipulated, they are so easily influenced, and they will be told that they have to use the proper pronouns. They will be told that they can't misgender somebody. I teach my children there are two genders. God made you how you are. And if a man is a man or a boy is a boy, even though they think they're a girl, that's a boy. We don't have to abide. Their dysphoria doesn't have to change my reality. And that's what I teach my kids, and that's what everybody has to be teaching their children. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, maybe because this is something, I don't care what seat or what title or what hat I wear, I will fight for our children always.
That's right. We need to eat meals and pray with our kids.
Yeah.
Mine are adults, and I wish we would have done more of that.
I'm gonna take those two topics and we're gonna look at something even a little different that you don't even think about. But when we get into our banking world and our insurance world, you'll hear the term ESG, environmental, social, and governance, and it plays right into what you guys were just talking about. If it's an insurance company, they're gonna look at them and number one, do they insure anything related to fossil fuels? Because that goes into our electric and everything else that we've got that's fossil fuels. Where do they land socially? And then how are they governing these? Same thing in our banking. We're gonna say, that doesn't really affect us here, but we all buy insurance. They all come from national companies typically. We do have some farm mutuals that are pretty close. That is gonna affect all of us going forward. I mean, we're talking about things here that are really bad, that could be right in our backyard, but these are kind of high-level things that kind of scoot past us and we don't even think about it. But it is gonna affect our money down the road. It's gonna affect our insurance, which means those insurance companies aren't doing exactly what the rating agencies are getting into. And I happen to participate with a national organization dealing with insurance. And I got the letters where a letter was sent to, signed by a whole bunch, I think it was 30 of these environmental groups and such, going after our biggest insurers, saying this is what we're gonna do to your ratings. And they're all, you get AM Best, they're an AA rated or an A+ rated. That's how, how strong your insurance company is. These things are coming at us too. So we talk about the kids and things that are hitting us right at home, but watch out, they're coming after your wallet and everything else, and it's all about this same program. It's horrible.
Hi, I'm Heidi Elwood. I own a home care in that area, and it's been a little bit difficult, and I'm wondering if you can tell us if there's any changes on the forefront this next couple of years to help nursing homes, home care. I mean, the only thing that we've been able to do since COVID is hire family taking care of family, and that's not gonna stay well.
You have good things coming.
Pardon?
You have good things coming. That was one of the good things that actually, in the Senate, the Human Services Bill, when it left the floor the first time, had 60-some votes out of the 67, I think. It came back with a whole bunch of really bad stuff added on it from the House, so when it got passed, it was a party line vote. But we had 4 things that we worked on real heavily last year, and that was long-term care, nursing homes, disability providers, day service providers, PCAs, and non-emergency medical transport. That was our core interest. Those are the areas we tried to help with, to the tune of about $820 million last year, but we couldn't get that across the finish line because Democrats do not like nursing homes. But anyhow, everything but the nursing home stuff went through, and there's good increases that's coming your way out of the Human Services Bill, and then we turned around at the end and we've got a bill for $300 million going to nursing homes. So nursing homes will see over a period of time, the initial check, I believe, is about $225,000 or $35,000. In total, they will see about $465,000 to each location over the next year or two. That's going to help throw them a little bit of a lifeline, but you should, once that gets put into place, it's going to help you out a lot. That was one of the positives that came out of all of this.
Thank you. And I do appreciate everything you guys did this year. I know it must kind of help on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we've been great.
Thank you.
So can I address, well, 2 issues here? I'll try to make it short. When you talk about the elderly, the population, labor shortage and stuff that you have to remember, here again, numbers, simple demographics. The population, I compare it to a lollipop, okay? You've got this round part on the top and you've got the stick coming down. That represents our population. After World War II, we had the baby boomer generation, right? That's